Here we are in Chapter 8, Communication and Conflict. Again, I'll encourage you to follow along this supplement to your PowerPoint, follow along in your book. There's lots of figures, tables, and guides, as well as literature reviews that are very helpful for you to in understanding the content and the concepts that we talk about. So I'll let you guys read your learning outcomes. So we talk about effective communication in healthcare settings. Effective communication improves patient outcomes. It's important to all areas of healthcare. And the development of systems of communication keys, like handoff communication. I think in your paperwork you use the PACE handoff communication tool. Here's the SBAR communication tool. Interprofessional communication is effective when healthcare providers communicate with each other and with patients and with families in an open, collaborative, and respectful way. You know, this always wasn't the case. You know, we used to like families to drop off their loved one for treatment or whatever they needed in the hospital, and we would call them when it was time to come back and pick them up. Or we maybe would let them visit for 2 hours in a day, and that was it. We just felt like they were more in the way. But now that's not the case. People do want to be communicated with. But with some of that communication comes conflict. Disagreement in values or beliefs with oneself or between people that causes harm or the potential to cause harm. Conflict is a catalyst for change and has the ability to stimulate either detrimental or beneficial effects. Interpersonal conflict occurs when a person, when confronted with the need to think or act in a way that seems at odds with one's sense of self. Questions often arise that create a conflict over priorities, ethical standards, and values. Interpersonal conflict is the most common type of conflict. It transpires between and among patients, family members, nurses, physicians, members of other departments. The conflicts occur that focus on difference of opinions, priority, or approach with others. Organizational conflict arises when discord exists about policies and procedures, personnel codes of conduct, or accepted norms of behavior and patterns of communication. Some organizational conflict is related to hierarchical structure and role differentiation among employees. Who does what? We look at conflict, we look at the stages of conflict. The first being frustration. This is when we perceive that your personal goals may be blocked. The frustration may escalate into stronger emotions such as anger or deep resignation. Conflict arises when different interpretations of a situation occur, including a different emphasis on what is important and what is not, and different thoughts about what should occur next. All involved develop an idea of what the conflict is about, and their views may or may not be accurate. Behavioral response to a conflict follows the conceptualization. This may include seeking clarification about how another person views the conflict, collecting information that informs the issue, or engaging in dialogue about the issue. As actions are taken to resolve the conflict, the way that some or all parties conceptualize the conflict may change. Tangible or intangible consequences result from the actions taken and have significant implications for the work setting. Consequences include the conflict being resolved with a revised approach, stagnation of any current movement, so nobody does anything. Or let's just forget about it, no future movement. The issue that caused the conflict has not changed, but parties no longer wish to deal with each other, and this is forever a problem. Constructive conflict results in successful resolution leading to the following outcomes. Growth occurs, problems are resolved, groups are unified, productivity is increased, commitments increased. However, some unsatisfactory resolution is typically destructive and results in the following: negativity, resistance, increased frustration, inhibit movement, resolutions diminish or are absent. Groups divide and relationships weaken. Productivity decreases and satisfaction decreases. Categories of conflict. Sources of fact-based conflicts are external written sources that include job descriptions, hospital policies, standards of nursing practice, and the Joint Commission mandates. Goal conflicts often arise from competing priorities, desire to empower employees versus control through micromanagement. Frequently, there is a common goal, which is quality patient care. And sometimes that can be identified and used to frame the conflict resolution. Even when all agree on the common goal, different ideas about the best approach to achieve that goal may produce conflict. For example, if a unit goal is to reduce costs by 10%, one leader may target overtime hours, while another may eliminate the budget for continuing education. Values, opinions, and beliefs are much more personal. Thus, they generate disagreements that can be threatening and adversarial. Because values are subjective, value-based conflicts often remain unresolved. Therefore, a need to find a way for competing values to coexist is necessary for effective communication and conflict management. Some modes of conflict resolution. When we finally get back together, I'm going to have you guys take a test, and it helps you identify which mode of conflict resolution do you typically fall under. Avoiding or withdrawing is very unassertive and uncooperative, because people who avoid neither pursue their own goals or needs or concerns immediately, nor assist others to pursue theirs. Accommodating, people neglect their own needs, goals, and concerns while trying to satisfy those of others. They're thought to be cooperative. This approach has an element of being self-sacrificing and simply obeying orders or serving other people. Competing, people pursue their own needs and goals at the expense of others. Sometimes people use whatever power, creativeness, or strategies that are available to win. Compromising involves both assertiveness and cooperation on the part of everyone and requires maturity and confidence. Might involve negotiating. Compromise is one of the most effective behaviors used by nurse leaders because it supports a balance of power between themselves and others in the work setting. And then collaborating, although the most time-consuming approach, it's the most creative stance. It is both assertive and cooperative because people work creatively and openly to find a solution that most fully satisfies all important concerns and goals to be achieved. Differences in conflict handling and styles among nurses. Avoidance and accommodation are often the predominant choices. Prevalent style for nurse managers is compromise. Successful management of disruptive workplace conflict includes delaying confrontation, approaching the colleague calmly, and acknowledging the colleague's point of view. Nursing students and new graduates may be unprepared to handle conflict in their practice environment and may experience a number of barriers, such as fear of causing conflict. Speaking up as a patient advocate is difficult for novice nurses. This highlights the need to develop delegation strategies, including conflict handling skills, to adapt to the evolving professional role. A prevalent conflict management style for nursing students and new nurses is avoidance and accommodation. So the role of the leader when it talks about conflict. Encourage positive working relationships among healthcare providers. Includes effective conflict management as part of a healthy working environment. Create a practice environment that fosters open communication and collaborative practices for achieving mutual goals that enable nurses to use constructive approaches to conflict management. Modeling open communication. One other way is conflict prevention. Try to avoid those things that could possibly cause conflict in the first place. And then having skills to support conflict resolution. We'd like to provide nurse education about conflict management that could empower nurses to use these newly acquired skills in negotiation and creative problem-solving techniques. Poor communication often creates conflict that jeopardizes patient safety, whereas inadequate leadership appears to be a contributing factor to adverse patient outcomes. Conflict is going to happen. Conflict is going to happen. But whenever possible, open, honest communication, including staff decision-making and securing resources, whenever possible, that meet the staff's needs in delivering quality care. Managing incivility, lateral violence, and bullying. An expression of conflict may be incivility, lateral violence, bullying. Unresolved conflict and disruptive behavior adversely affects safety and quality care. Bullying, defined as repeated unwanted harmful actions intended to humiliate, offend, and cause distress in the recipient, is a very serious issue that threatens patient safety, nurse safety, and the nursing profession as a whole. I want to educate and encourage dialogue about incivility and horizontal violence to include awareness, communication, and conflict resolution skills. Senior level leaders and nurse managers are responsible for ensuring that appropriate policies are in place to confront negative workplace behaviors, such as lateral violence and bullying. Leaders create and implement a process for managing these conflictual situations, ignoring the importance of informal communication informal social networks can be detrimental to employee satisfaction, patient outcomes, and organizational goal attainment. Managing the rumor mill, the grapevine, or the gossip chain will assist in decreasing incivility and improve the work environment. The ANA has published a position statement on incivility, bullying, and workplace violence. It states that the nursing profession will not tolerate violence of any type from any source and directs nurses and nurse leaders to collaborate to create a culture of respect. Nothing's going to happen about it unless someone reports it. You may experience this. If you do, I would talk to your manager and see what their thoughts are on this. Lateral violence, horizontal violence can be very distressing. It can be. But until people start talking about it in situations where they feel like they are safe, it's going to continue. So find that safe person and talk to them about it and get their guidance on what to do. Managers, like I said, have a responsibility to address this, but they can't address something if they don't know that it's happening. So in conclusion, conflict is inevitable. Unresolved conflict results in negative outcomes for all. And we all need to work to eliminate hostile work environments.